Hello and welcome, our blood viewers, to RTD's News English edition. As usual, we bring to you the major and top highlights of tonight. The Prime Minister on the front line at the World Summit on Food Security in Rome, Italy. Investing in human capital to drive economic growth, an African summit. And on the international scene in Algeria, 34 victims, including 10 soldiers, lost their lives in a devastating fire. Well, these were our major and top highlights. Welcome back to our newsroom, our beloved viewers. At the head of a high-level delegation, Prime Minister His Excellency Mr. Abdul Ghadir Kamil Mohammed, accompanied by Mr. Mohammed Ahmed Awali, Minister of Agriculture, Water, Fisheries, Livestock, and Fisheries Resources, is taking part in Rome in the United Nations Review meeting on the transformation of food systems, which began this morning, July 24, and which will last until July 26. 2 days. During that day, the Prime Minister met at the FAO headquarters Mr. Q Dongyu, Director General of this institution, which hosts this crucial meeting for the world food security. During their discussions, various questions focused on this theme were discussed, giving a privileged place to the desalination of sweeter and seawater and energy. At the request of the Djiboutian party, it was agreed to support Djibouti on various projects of which it is the barrier, and in particular the creation of a park of date palms in Hanle and accompanied greenhouses. It was also recorded of the next visit of the Director General of the FAO to Djibouti to see firsthand the essential and priority needs of our country. For his part, the Director General of the FAO suggested that Djibouti, because of its geographical position, should consider the creation of an agro-industrial processing park that will serve the entire East African region and the Arabian Peninsula. During the same day, His Excellency Mr. Abdul Ghadir Kamil Mohammed participated in a lunch hosted by the Italian Prime Minister, and to which were also invited the Somali President, the Ethiopian Prime Minister, the Kenyan Vice President. Issues of mutual interest from the sub-region were shared with the head of the Italian government. The Prime Minister, Mrs. Giorgia Meloni, was to seek to be able to support Djibouti in its geothermal exploitation program on the sidelines of the summit. The Prime Minister had a meeting with Mr. Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud, President of the Federal Republic of Somalia. The very cordial exchange mainly focused on the regional situation, and particularly on security, climate change, and regional cooperation between our two brotherly countries. Finally, this marathon day was closed by the remarkable intervention of Mr. Abdul Ghadir Kamil Mohammed at the plenary session on food security in the presence of the Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Kantiras, and various heads of state and government from around the world. He highlighted local measures taken to contain the adverse effects of raising global food and fuel prices, as well as the effects of drought in the Horn of Africa. He cited, among other things, the National Action Plan aimed at protecting our population from the negative economic repercussions of the international crisis implemented by the government of Djibouti. Let's head towards Dar es Salaam, the capital of Tanzania, where the first ever African Head of Summit on Human Capital has opened. This historic event brought together some 1,200 delegates for crucial discussions. Among the distinguished participants was the Minister of Economy and Finance, Mr. Ilyas Moussa, representing the President of the Republic, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh. A central theme at the heart of this summit focused on human capital in Africa under the inspiring theme of accelerating Africa's economic growth, boosting youth productivity through enhanced learning and skills. Indeed, the scale of this meeting offers an exceptional opportunity to take the discussion to the highest political and technical levels. The ultimate aim of this initiative is to generate national commitments and urgent investments to strengthen human capital, the invaluable wealth of the African continent. The African Heads of State Summit on Human Capital therefore promises to be a major event for the future of Africa, where the leaders and experts present will have the opportunity to shape policies and strategies aimed at supporting Africa's youth, boosting their productivity and enabling them to develop their skills to the fullest. As part of his working visit to Djibouti, the chairman of the African Asian Servant of the Qatar Servant World Fund, Sheikh Faisal Thani Al Thani, visited the Scale International Hotel. On arrival at the site, Sheikh Faisal Thani Al Thani was received by the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Minister of Economy and Finance, Minister of Higher Education and Research, Minister of Equipment and Infrastructure, as well as the Chairman of the Ports and Free Zones Authority and Commander of Port Operations. The visit ended with a working meeting held by both parties, where they discussed in depth ways and means of strengthening bilateral cooperation between Djibouti and Doha in the above-mentioned fields, in the presence of Djibouti's ambassador to Qatar, Mr. Tayyip Dubaad Roble, and the Head of Affairs of the Embassy of the State of Qatar in Djibouti, Mr. Ibrahim Al Shuraim. A delegation of senior officials from the Ministry of National Education and Vocational Training, led by the Secretary General Mr. Mohammed Abdullah Mahyoub, traveled on Sunday to Antananarivo, Madagascar, to participate in a regional workshop organized jointly by the Ministry of Education of Madagascar and the Global Partnership for Education. Also taking part in this workshop were delegations from the Ministries of Education of Madagascar, Burundi, and the Ivory Coast, as well as representatives of the World Bank, UNICEF, and UNESCO. It should be noted that this regional workshop is an opportunity to provide a framework for reflection and exchange aimed at developing a common understanding for the new funding model of the Global Partnership for Education, GPE 2025, and to take advantage of peer exchange as a means of fine-tuning priority reforms based on evidence. To do this, it will be a question of identifying the challenges and opportunities potentially vector of the expected transformation of the education systems, in particular through the sharing of experiences, which will allow each country to enrich its reflections and to finalize the definition of its priority reform on the basis of the contextual analysis of the favorable factors carried out by each country upstream of this workshop. The National Office for Assistance to Refugees and Disaster Victims, ONARS, in collaboration with the UNHCR office in Djibouti, organized today at the Kempinski Palace Hotel a meeting of the National Coordination for the Comprehensive Refuge Framework of Action. This meeting brought together various actions and stakeholders involved in the implementation of the CRFF, headed by the Secretary General of the Ministry of the Interior, Mr. Siraj Omar Abdul Ghadir. The meeting was attended by the UNHCR representative, Mr. Sakur, the Executive Secretary of ONARS, Hussein Hassan Darar, and representatives and focal points of all the institutions involved. The aim of this meeting was to prepare for the World Refuge Forum scheduled for the end of this year in December in Geneva. A self-assessment report was presented by a consultant to identify the achievements of the Republic in terms of the commitments made by our country in 2019 at the first Forum of the Refugees. This was an opportunity for stakeholders in the Global Refuge Action Framework to pool their efforts and thoughts in order to face the world with well-defined priorities and challenges. After the sub-prefecture of Holhol and rural localities not far from the main town, the prefect of the Ali Sabih region, Abdul Malik Mohammed Bonaita, undertook successive visits on Sunday to the village of Ali Ade, the rural border locality of Gester. These visits by the new prefect of this region in the southeast of the country are part of his contact with the village chiefs, traditional chiefs, members of the local population, and employees of the Ministry of Public Health posts. During each of these visits, the representative of the public authorities is accompanied by a strong delegation comprising his deputy prefect, Mr. Saedia Wabri Asawi, deputies Filsan Abdullah and Abdurrahman Awale, and interim regional council president, Mr. Nuh Saeed Gildan. After Ali Ade, the prefect's convoy headed for the rural border town of Gester is located in a stone's throw from the junction of three border lines between Djibouti, Somalia, and Ethiopia. It has a small basic school and a health post, with which the local population is delighted to have built. On arrival, Prefect Abdul Malik and the members of his delegation were greeted by the village chief, men, women, and children with traditional folk dances. Moments later, the distinguished visitors engaged in a dialogue with the villagers. On Monday, 24th of July, the new prefect of the Obokh region, Mr. Musa Adam Migani, visited a village on the outskirts of the town of Obokh. The new prefect's visit was part of a drive to bring the administration closer to the people and to establish contact with rural communities. Mr. Musa Adam Migani was accompanied by a large delegation, including the interim president of the Obokh Regional Council, Mr. Ahmed Ali Mohammed, the region's honorable parliamentarian, Mr. Kamil Hamad Ahmed, who is also the constituency deputy, local elected representative, the police, and his principal collaborators. After warmly welcoming the prefect and thanking him for the choice, the representative of the local population took it turns to raise various concerns. During the meeting, the main issues that dominated the debate was the question of water, especially in this period of intensive heat and drought. Discussions and exchanges were held in a climate of conviviality and sharing. الأرحبة حي الأرحبة Let's talk about the village of Dai, a very popular destination for Djiboutian holidaymakers and national and foreign tourists, introducing a special look at vacationers at Dai.
Due to its mild and pleasant climate in all season and its legendary hospitality, the village of Day has always been a popular destination for Djibouti holidaymakers and national and foreign tourists. From the city of Tajura, capital for the region, less than 50 kilometers separate you from the village of Day, passing through Renda. The village of Day constitutes the most important agglomeration of the sub-prefecture of Renda. The number of inhabitants varies between 3,000 and 5,000 people living in Dai depending on the season. You should know that the village of Day culminates at 1,600 meters above sea level and is in the heart of Goda Massif, whose mountains have peaks at over 1,750 meters above sea level. Every year, especially during the hot season, the population of the capital or even those of the region flock on Massif to the region at least inclined to have high temperature. The village of Day actually meets these criteria so much sought after by Djibouti holidaymakers, who most often come with their families to breathe the fresh and natural air of this mountain range that is Goda Massif. These families most often arrive as a family, staying with members of their family or acquaintance living in Dai by renting houses specially fitted out of for this purpose, and who says massive influx of holidaymakers says also, among other things, reviving the economic at the local level to the delight of traders who do not scheme on means to meet the needs of newcomers. Who says holidays also says organization of a competition and leisure to escape boredom but also to flourish. These holiday makers, with the support of local officials, set up individuals and collective sports activities. We went during this report to meet the family of young Abaizid Ali Yusuf, a young executive working between the locality of Sagalu and the capital, and who decided to spend his summer vacation with his family at Dai. We have been on vacation here at Dai since June 11. It was the mild and cool climate that attracted us here. Some of our compatriots prefer to spend their holidays with our large Ethiopian neighbors or in Europe or elsewhere for some reason. Personally, I do not see the point of it since we have the same climatic condition in certain regions of our country. This is the first time my family and I have vacationed here at Dai. And throughout these visits, we were accompanied by one of the community leaders of Dai, Mr. Ali Dabeli, who made it his duty to share with us his love and admiration for these countries that are so attractive and so southern. Mr. Ali Dabeli said 100 families, therefore, who came to spend the 3 months of vacation at Dai, an impressive figure which continues to grow years after years. Escaping the heat of summer is one of the main concerns of Djiboutian families during the summer holidays, if not the main concern, the Republic of Djibouti being in no way spared by the global warming that is taking place on a planetary level. Rare ge- these rare regions to continuous and intense heat wave.
We move from Dai to Algeria, where the country is plagued by fires this summer. At least 34 people, including 10 military personnel, perished on Sunday night in the forest fires in three departments in the north of the country, according to a new report published by the Ministry of the Interior, the Algerian Interior, on a Monday morning. Well, by this, our blood viewers, we finally conclude this edition. Thank you for being with us, and make sure to tune in later for more. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you once again.